Hello. In this video we're going to solve the problem. A ball is projected directly upward from an initial height of 100 feet with an initial velocity of 80 feet per second. A says to find the function that describes the height of the ball in terms of time t. B says to after how many seconds does the ball reach its maximum height and what is this maximum height? And C asks after how many seconds will the ball return to the ground? Now, what we've done is we've effectively created a problem that is quadratic in nature. And the reason why is because the height as a function of time is governed by this equation. 1/2 at squared plus v naught t plus h naught. Now the a is acceleration due to gravity in this case, or just acceleration period. The v naught is the initial velocity, and the h naught is the initial height. So those were both initial velocity and initial height. A is acceleration. Now, on Earth, in case you don't know, acceleration due to gravity is 32 feet per second squared. And the reason I'm using this with these units is because the height is in feet and the velocity is in feet per second. So because of that, we're going to want to have our acceleration in feet per second squared. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace the 100, the initial height, for the h naught, and the velocity 80 for the v naught. So the height as a function of time. Now notice that the acceleration is negative because on the Earth we just consider down to be negative. So it's going towards the Earth, so it accelerates at negative 32 feet per second squared. So plug in a negative 32 here. A half of negative 32 is negative 16. And then t squared plus your v naught t, and your v naught is 80. So 80 t plus your h naught of 100. I have no idea. Okay, there we go. That's better. Fantastic. So this is the answer for A. B is asking us after how many seconds does the ball reach its maximum height, and what is this maximum height? Okay, well, here's the thing. If this is the function, then after how many seconds does the ball reach its maximum height? Now notice that if I was to graph this function, it's going to look something like this. Like that. So the maximum height will be the vertex of a parabola, because this is quadratic in nature. So we're effectively asking after how many seconds does the ball reach its maximum height. The x-axis is the t-axis and the y-axis is the h-axis. So when does it occur is the t value, and what is it is the h value. In other words, this is the x value, this is the y value. So we're effectively asking what's the vertex for both of these questions. The x-coordinate is when, and the y-coordinate is what. Okay, so whenever we use negative b over 2a, well, negative b just means negative 80. 2a means 2 times negative 16. And so this is going to be negative 80 over negative 32. And negative over negative is positive. And you can do the division, or you can realize that they're both divisible by 8. So that gives me 10 over 4. Oh, look, that can simplify a little bit further. That's actually 5 divided by 2. In other words, we could have divided both of these by 16 instead of 8. Now, 5 halves, I'm just going to go ahead and write it as 2.5. Then we want to find what is h of 2.5. That's the y value. And you'll just plug in 2.5 for the t. Just plug it in to the calculator and see what you get. When you type it in, you should get 200. So, the maximum occurs at 2.5 seconds, and the maximum is 200 feet. Okay, so let's look at C now. C says, after how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? Now remember that the height of the ground is 0. So what we have is we have negative 16t squared plus 80t plus 100 equals 0. And we want to solve this, and you can solve this any way that you can. What I like to do, first of all, I'm going to divide everything by a negative, but also notice that everything in here is divisible by 4. So I'm going to divide everything in here by negative 4. And notice I divided the 0 by negative 4 as well. So negative 16 divided by negative 4 is positive 4t squared. Excuse me. 80 divided by negative 4 is negative 20, so negative 20t. And the 100 divided by negative 4 is negative 25. And that's going to be equal to 0. And this you can solve. You can solve it any way that you can. The real question is, can this be factored? Well, I don't know. So to look at this, we're going to look at this and see if the discriminant b squared minus 4ac is a perfect square. Now, if it's a perfect square, that means that this is factorable. Or you just continue on to find the use the quadratic formula. Either way. So we have b, negative 20 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 25. Well, negative 200 squared is 400, and negative 25 times negative 4 is negative 100, times negative 4 is positive 400. In other words, this is 400 plus 400. So this is actually 800. And you can think of 800 as 400 times 2. Now notice that 800 is not a perfect square. If you type it in, it'll just give you a decimal. If you take the square root of 100, it'll give you a decimal. Now, I do know that 800 is the same thing as 400 times 2. So that means that t is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, the quadratic formula. So negative b, and we're looking at this equation here, is positive 20 plus or minus the square root of 400 times 2 all over 2 times 4, which is 8. So this is actually 20 plus or minus 20 root 2 all over 8. Now, notice, first of all, that the negative is going to produce a negative value. So we're just going to reject the negative in the end anyway. But also the 20 and the 8 all share a common factor of 4. So whenever you divide each of those by 4, that's going to give you 5 plus or minus 5 root 2 over 2. So that's actually going to give you 5 plus 5 root 2 all over 2. And if you type this into the calculator, that's going to give you a certain value. Now, when you type into the calculator, if you have one of the newer calculators, you want to press alpha y equals enter, and that's going to give you a fraction over a fraction. And of course, yes, I'm typing it in as I'm saying this. And this will be approximately 6.04. So what this means is that it will return to the ground after 6.04 seconds. Now, notice that I rejected the negative here because if I typed a negative in, it would have given me a negative value, specifically negative 1.04. And that's a problem. So because of that, we just leave it as positive 6.04, and that's when it returns to the ground anyway. And to write down the answer, yes, we do need to write this down in sentence form. So write down, it will return after 6.04 seconds. Fantastic. Alrighty. Well, I will see you in the next video. Have fun.